Welcome back, guys. I see you watching this. Your dry ass lips. Don't try and lick them now. You got dry lips. Fuck you.
Oh, what the? You tuned into this podcast with dry lips?
Go get some chapstick. Keep it in your pocket, bro.
I gotta sit down.
No, don't lick them now. They're already dry. I already count you.
We hate you.
I just checked to see if my lips were dry when you said that.
Damn, we got our own. We got our own man.
Boom,
That's
just
what it
a
is.
card.
All right, everybody, our lovely viewers, who I don't hate at all, welcome back to the second episode of the comeback of the Ghost Syndicast.
Of season
I'm gonna
two.
be of season 2, yeah.
Part 2, the
I'll be
final part.
the sure. I will be the host for this episode. I'm Dylan. I'm joined by Andrew,
Yo.
Gwen,
Howdy.
and Nick.
Hi.
So, a few days ago, we all watched. Well, we'll get that in a bit. In the meet for now. How's everybody been doing? Any life
Fantastic.
updates?
I took a bunch of midterms since the last time we recorded. Haven't gotten the grades back yet, but I'm praying for the best.
I
Nice.
just took one today, and from my discussion with the people in that class, I think I'm the only one that did well, so that's pretty fire.
Nice.
Yeah, I took some this morning, man. I'm feeling crazy. This is gonna be a fun episode for sure.
I had a midterm last week, but in more interesting stuff on my end. Yesterday was my 2-year anniversary. My lovely girlfriend. So
Let's
pretty happy
go.
about that.
Oh, noise suppression. Hold on.
No,
There
we
go.
heard it the first time.
It did cut out a little
Oh.
bit, but
Never mind, he clapped.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, 2-year
Congratulations.
anniversary with my lovely
Woo,
girlfriend. Yeah.
good job.
Yeah, and that was
Wait, 2
pretty.
years?
2 years. Yep. Started going
Damn,
out.
I ain't gonna lie,
Yeah.
I thought it was longer.
Really? I mean, what I call it, it feels like, in a good way, of course. It feels like forever, like, but like in a way, like I can't I genuinely I barely remember like what life was like before, having a partner, and it's a way to illustrate like how my life has been impacted in a positive way, and it feels great.
I remember.
Sick.
It was horrible. I
Yeah.
hated every minute of it.
No, not to say it was bad, but it's just it's been so long that I genuinely I have trouble remembering to an extent. But enough about lame stuff like that. As I alluded to before, a few days ago we all watched a movie. That movie came
Two
out.
brothers.
Came out.
It was great.
And then we watched the sequel, Three Brothers. It wasn't as good. 20
It's
Brothers.
called Gay Brothers.
Fuck,
Y'all are
I
never
always
gonna get
mess
that
it
right.
up.
Damn,
My bad I haven't seen it.
My bad, I have.
So yeah, we watched Megalopolis, and it was pretty great.
It was awesome. I loved it.
It was
It's my
kind of the
Oscar
best
pick.
movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. So yeah, we watched a movie. Came out this year, titled "I Saw the TV Glow." Produced by A24. It's definitely interesting to say the least. A lot goes on. A lot of it can be hard to understand. But we're gonna do our best to try and make sense of it all and just talk about it. So, I guess just opening thoughts about the movie as a whole from any of you guys.
I think
1
it's
out
our
of 10.
duty to dumb it down. Dumb it down as much as possible for our viewers.
Yeah, because they're so fucking stupid. I agree.
No, you know what? Fuck
is
it.
It's a challenging movie.
I'll give it a 6 out of 10, and I'll tell you why. Because there were 6 words said by my boy Fred Durst in that movie.
Actually, I think only 5. One of them was,
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
did he say
contraction.
isn't that show for girls? Yeah, well, isn't is 2 words. Like it's a contraction, so it's 2 words.
Alright,
So 6
we
words,
agree.
6 out of
Alright.
10.
I do agree. He
In
should have had
reality, it
more
should be
words there.
5 out of 10.
He really should have. He should have been the main character. Honestly, they should have.
Dude,
swapped
I'm telling you,
him with Justin Smith.
you said the thing I described was just a different movie, but there should be a movie where Fred Durst is like every background character, but you never see his face, like the janitor sweeping the hall. You can tell it's Fred Durst. Like, I don't know, give him a fucking red Yankee hat or something, but don't have his face shown. But then,
And aside
like,
from that, it has nothing to do with the plot.
yeah.
Just
Just
happens
never
to be
acknowledge
every
it.
actor.
Yeah. Now that's a
If you
movie
watch
I'd
it,
like.
It's not at all important to anything other than that it's a completely realistic, grounded film.
Yeah.
Our viewers who
Okay.
haven't watched this movie are gonna be so confused. You brought up Fred Durst before like any of the characters.
Well,
Did
because
you even mention
it's-
that he's? Oh, you did mention he's in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I brought Fred Durst up is because it's the most important plot point in the whole movie. Like, if you don't know Fred Durst is...
Fred Durst?
Yeah. If you don't know Fred Durst is in the movie, you're gonna miss a lot of integral part. Like
Okay. Does anybody have any real observations?
I do. Starting
Okay.
with the fact that I didn't even know Fred Durst was in it until after I finished watching the movie the first time.
heresy.
Oh, so you missed like all the important stuff in the
Yeah,
movie.
it was such a shame. But I found out afterwards, and I was like, I couldn't even tell who it was. I was like, there's only one character it possibly could be. But I realized at
Character?
that point,
That's a person.
don't know what.
You just referred to a person as a character.
There's only one character in the movie it could have been.
Oh, I thought you were meaning you didn't realize who played the main character's dad in the movie.
No. I
And
didn't
you were
know
referring to
Fred
Fred Durst
played
was a
in that movie.
character. Okay.
I mean, let's be real.
I also realized at that point, in my entire life, I never actually knew what Fred Durst looked like until I was told he was in that movie. And I'm like, well, there's only one guy that matches.
Wait, how do you not know what he looks like? Have you not seen the image of him like looking up at the camera with his hands up and the red
Yeah, but it's a
hat
pretty
on?
old picture.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think in newer like promotions he has like a full-grown beard.
There is
So
a
he
much
didn't even look
better-
like that in the movie.
A much better comeback you could have had if I saw them live.
Yeah, but you were
Yeah,
a little
Yeah.
wasted.
just a little bit. Don't remember it. It's fine. Anyway, on the movie itself, aside from the best acting, deserves best supporting actor, and you know what? Just best main character actor, best actor, everything, all of it. Best director. He didn't direct it, but he definitely had a.
Fred Durst should earn Best Director for a movie he didn't direct.
Yeah, because you know what? I feel like he must have had some part in it.
I agree.
Other than the Durst, the movie, I liked it a lot. To probably none of y'all's surprise, because
Yeah.
it is a horror. Calling it horror is the
It's
most
at
generous
best
thing
a
I've
thriller.
and that's at very best. The only thing that you can really consider that is it has some very, very weird off-putting visuals during like certain parts. And aside from that, I don't even know where they're trying to get the horror from. Beats me, but whatever. But creepy visuals, I like that stuff too. I like the movie a whole lot, and I'm the one that had us all watch it. I'm the one that suggested for us to watch. So clearly, I had some good thoughts about it.
Clearly, you're
Yeah.
a fan. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
there's
gotta
plenty to
get
say
business.
about stuff that we don't like, but I don't think I would ever go through the effort of watching a movie and then saying we should all watch this movie because it was a bad movie so we can talk about it. I'm sure that's gonna happen now that I say it. At some point, we are going to do that and watch a movie that's so bad we must talk about it. But that point hasn't come
I
yet.
would never.
You would never.
No. No.
I'm gonna look at our ideas page to see if Nick's already described that.
I've
All
already
right,
got
you're
it
it.
open
You're
scrolling through
already a
it.
snitch. Way to go.
I mean, I
Okay,
don't know
about
which
the
it
fact
is,
that-
but
Yeah, about the movie. Yeah, I agree with Gwen's sentiment. I also quite liked it a lot. I think I personally like more, sort of subtle, like character-driven movies like this. I thought it was good. Only problem is okay. Well, problems, problems with like just I shouldn't say little things because I didn't like the acting. Um, really, I didn't like a lot of the
I
like some of
liked
the
some of the
framing.
acting, not
Some
all
of
of
the
the
some of
acting.
the acting was okay, but yeah, like the framing, I thought with like the scenes of Owen, our main character. I realize we haven't even mentioned who the characters are, but we'll do that in a bit. Like talking
I
to the
think
camera was a
we
bit
should go
weird.
under the fair assumption that for any of this to make enough sense, someone should probably just watch the movie first.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, maybe we'll explain some things for clarification, but explaining
Well,
everything, that's gonna be.
how are
how
we
about
supposed to be
this? I'll
entertaining for our dumb viewers?
Oh, that's a good point.
how about this? All right, I'll give like a minute long, 2 minute long rundown, and then I'll just say spoiler warning. For the rest of the podcast, we're going to go into spoiler territory. How about that?
That
Sound
sounds
good?
like a good idea.
Right, that,
All right.
I
that
So I
feel
should-
just
like
thought of
if
this.
if you care about spoilers for this movie and you are watching this episode, just watch the movie first.
Yeah, but
Like
again,
we're gonna be going in depth
viewers
into discussion on
at
it, so
least be
like
stupid. But yeah.
yeah.
So
Well,
all right.
we've had this conversation now, so we don't have to go into spoilers. We can
Okay,
just
but
talk freely.
all right, but still, just a quick rundown of the movie. It is about a young boy named Owen, and it takes you through the stages of his life. And the one defining person in his life being this girl named Maddie, who he meets when he is in the 7th grade and she is in the 9th grade, and it talks about the defining TV show in his life titled The Pink Opaque. Through his interactions with Maddie and the TV show, he begins to learn more. Well, I don't even want to say he begins to learn about himself, but he realizes things about himself that perhaps he didn't know, and slowly but surely, the what he thought he knew about himself and the world around him begins to crumble. Um, that a fair assessment?
That seems pretty fair.
Sounds like an
Okay.
IMDb synopsis.
That is like
Believe it or
the
not, I was
most.
not reading anything.
That was a pretty.
That's crazy because I'm pretty sure. Hold on a second.
You definitely used some wording that I have seen exactly in describing the plot of it.
Maybe I've like I mean I checked the IMDb page for like 30 seconds before this. I don't know, maybe I saw something and it stuck, but either
Maybe.
way, that's basically what
This
happened.
movie. It's a very any description, regardless of liking it or not. Any descriptions that are trying to be given without just giving away the main things about it really don't do exactly what it's about justice. Because like if I just say that part of it, if you tell me that and I go in watching a movie with that description and you are specifically looking for that movie that was just described, you're probably going to be pretty darn disappointed because that is not exactly what you're gonna get out of it in the end.
Yeah, I think I was checking just for curiosity on the IMDb page, just some of the reviews, and yeah, quite a few of them were just like, this is not what I was expecting.
So like somewhat of a spoiler for the main talking point of this movie of why it's more interesting than just that plot. Which honestly, the plot initially, I kind of hope someone maybe at some point runs with something along a little bit along more of the long lines of what it was supposed to be about. But the whole thing is an allegory, and like most stories that are entirely allegories, it does kind of do that unfortunate walking the line of how much do we want to be telling our message and how much do we want to be telling the story that's meant to almost hide the message inside of it. And this one is definitely one that focuses more on the message and less on the story itself being coherent and an actual like I would say the movie itself is well written. The story of the movie might not be the best well written thing.
Why do you say the story is like
I
not the
mean,
best?
it it just kind of seems like the everything that isn't strictly for the purpose of being metaphor is kind of just given like a backseat. It's not as if I think of a specific example, I'll I guess bring this back up. But there's nothing
I
specific that comes to mind.
I did want to add on to, you had that you mentioned before the uh just now you were talking about how it focuses more on telling the, or like showing the message than telling the story, and does that make it like the story not good? I think that ties in really well with the last episode's discussion about music and achieving like the musical goal of, the song's goal with whatever. So if the goal of this movie was to um be an allegory for, did you even say what the allegory's for,
I
or are
don't
you
think I
waiting?
did.
You didn't
Mm-mm.
know.
I
Okay.
did not.
Do you want to
Yeah,
say?
so the whole thing is the most thinly veiled, like not even remotely trying to hide it, allegory for being trans and transitioning and that whole discovering it about yourself and deciding what to do with it. It is like if someone told me that it was trying to be subtle, I would call them an idiot because it was not at
uh,
all.
yeah, so if its main goal is to be an allegory for how trans people feel, uh, presumably this movie is about pre-transition, right?
I
Considering
would say
at
it's
the end Owen doesn't even escape
yeah, I
the
would say
world, so
specifically the majority of it is meant to be about
like
kind
discovering.
of discovering that you are trans, and then basically the main almost like uh the whole point of the conflict in the film is about the hesitation to actually go through with anything
Hmm.
once you've come to that realization, and almost kind of there's points where it's like in denial of no, it's not actually true, for either the reason of just avoiding having to deal with it or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole big encompassing different parts of the movie cover seemingly different parts of it, but just being trans as a whole is the main idea.
Yeah, so um back to my point before, if the whole goal is to represent those ideas, those feelings, and it does that really well, like obviously, it's not even subtle about it. This is how the director, you said, is trans, right?
Yes, she is.
So the director's trans. She, obviously directed this, wrote this from her own experiences. She wanted to illustrate how she felt. Then does it matter if the story itself, without this allegory in mind, is good, if the whole point was to illustrate how she felt?
Can I
It
pose a question right quick?
Yeah.
sure.
Are any of you guys going to say yes to that?
To what?
To Andrew's question.
Can you repeat the question?
Does it
What was it?
matter if the story isn't like the greatest, if it achieved the goal of, showing off her experience?
I'm not going to say explicitly solid 100% yes, but I'm also not going to say no either. I'm going to say it's kind of subjective based on the person watching.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so I'll let
agree.
you go first.
Okay.
Also, real fast. Sorry. Just looking up the director. Her name is, sorry,
Jane,
yeah,
I
Jane
cannot remember the last name.
Schoenbrunn. It says they identify as non-binary.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
trans feminine and non-binary. The
Okay.
Wikipedia article refers to them as they.
I
So,
was so certain I did my research well enough,
All
and I
right.
completely somehow missed that. Alrighty.
I think we should refer to
Um,
them as they going
I
on.
did
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 second of
Sure.
research, and I can
okay.
say one thing about them. Ugly. Let's continue.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Damn,
Interesting
bro. I did
input there.
1 minute of research about you, and I can say one thing for sure: ugly.
Dang.
Where was I going? Oh, yeah. So when I did do my research, however, on specifically right after, to give you a timeline of events here, I watched the movie a while ago. It was before it came out on streaming services. And then Nick, you watched it not too long after it did, and then these two just watched it recently, with the four of us doing a watch together
Mm,
over this past weekend.
it was great. We had beer, ate pizza.
I had a lot of beer. Um,
Delicious.
And when I was doing my research, or when I was talking to Nick about this after he watched the movie, there was one part where I was trying to see, because when I first heard about the movie, the way I first heard about the movie was through jokes I would see online of people saying, "Hey, there's this movie that is a super super plain, stupid, obvious trans allegory," and seemingly a lot of people online either maybe they just don't want to admit that it is, but they seemingly cannot tell because there's so many reviews that just don't mention it. And sure, you can make a review for a movie, not cover every point. This movie without talking about that, that's like saying a movie about Star Wars without mentioning space or
I don't
sci-fi or
know.
something.
I don't know if I agree
That's
with.
a terrible
No, no,
example.
I know what you're trying to get at, and I'm not sure I agree with it. Just because, like, with the context of the fact that you really liked it, you really wanted us to watch it. It was like even more obvious,
Yeah.
to me that it was going to be a trans allegory. But I could also see it being about, I guess, kind of like just growing up in
Oh, you
general.
know, it definitely can. There's
Like,
definitely
so
other messages there
yeah,
as
so
well.
if you don't know anyone that's trans, you don't understand what it's like for someone to be trans, or what they go through necessarily, then I could definitely see someone interpreting this just as like a coming of age style movie with like specifically what I think back to is that end scene when Owen's rewatching the early episode, and then nothing's like as polished, nothing's as
Hmm.
exciting when he's rewatching. I
Completely
think,
different show.
yeah, I think we've all had those feelings from things that we like idolize from our childhood, and then we revisit them later and we're like, oh, why did I like this? And I think like in terms of that, it's very possible to be interpreted not necessarily as a
I
trans allegory,
I can
but
see other interpretations
Mhm.
being made. Like I I definitely recognize the whole it being almost like a thing about like nostalgia and growing up and going out of it and all that. But I feel like it's just so hard to. Maybe it's just because I'm more familiar with it, and I did admittedly know it was about that going into it. But even then, I feel like it would be. It's really hard to miss it, and it's such a major part of the story that I feel like completely leaving it out of. I'm not talking about like short reviews where it's just like, oh, it's a movie about growing up and stuff like that, and I thought it was good or I thought it was bad. If that's the whole review, sure, whatever. But like these are like lengthy reviews going in depth on stuff. If you never even touch on that, that's like kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although in fairness, I don't think the movie says the word trans
It does not.
or
No.
It
transition or even
that
like
is
gay any time in the
Oh, no,
entire
no, it
runtime.
well, I don't know if it
Did it
uses
say
the
that? Did
word.
it?
I don't know if it uses the word
the
gay, but
only
at
time it
one point,
mentions gay stuff
Maddie
is with Maddie.
says,
Yeah.
"Yeah, Maddie says I like girls. You know that," or something
All right.
along those lines.
All right. So they okay. So they reference homosexuality, but I don't think they don't say the word
They never
trans at all.
explicitly reference it now, which is definitely
Although,
the way you can
ooh,
miss it.
I'm looking at that list of notes you have, Dylan, and Fred Durst's line can be really taken interestingly in that context.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Fred Durst's singular line.
yeah, so Owen's like riding home in the back of the car. He's like laying his head on his mom's lap. He's asking his mom, who at that point we find out has cancer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a scene before we find that out.
And then he's like, "Can I watch the Pink Opaque tonight?" The show he obsesses over. And she's like, "What time does it air?" He says, 10:30. Well, your bedtime's at 10:15. And he just looks dejected. And then Fred Durst kind of turns his head to the back of the car and goes, "Isn't that a show for girls?"
And that's his one
Yeah,
line in the
that's
whole movie.
his only
There is
line
a
in the whole
line
movie.
where Owen's head is in the TV. The house is like everything's like sparking. There's like
Yeah.
a fire alarm going off, and he's like struggling to pull him out, and like puts out the fire, and he's like cleaning. I think he was
Yeah,
like washing out his head or whatever, and he doesn't say a word. He never
and
makes a
on
single
top of that,
sound.
Owen like pukes out the Luna juice in the movie. He pukes it out
Yes.
into the bathtub, and Fred Durst is like basically helping Owen
Silent.
get through like how
Yes.
you would help someone who drank too much, and
I
doesn't say another word during that
yeah.
scene.
It's crazy. I don't even put point I was. Oh, the point I was originally making. I kept going on tangents here that would lead into more tangents. But the point I was originally trying to make that connects back into something that you said earlier is a concept called the dead author, where it's basically, from my understanding, trying to remember what it is, because I wrote it down to talk about it, but I don't remember the exact wording of what it is. But something along the lines of the viewer of any piece of fiction, any story, is it up to clearly an author can write a story with a meaning and a purpose for it in mind, but is that if a viewer watches that and has a completely different interpretation and it means something else to them, the dead author thing is arguing that the viewer's opinion of if they think it's about something completely different, completely unintended by the author, it is an equally like as valid
Um,
take towards it.
I just looked up the dead author and Google's AI feature, which is extremely trusted and never tells you anything wrong, describes it as the idea of the
Perfectly
dead
valid.
author. The idea of the dead author is a literary critical concept that suggests that the meaning of a text comes from the text itself, not the author. This idea is based on the 1967 essay The Death of the Author by French literary critic Roland Barthes. So,
Hopefully Roland Barthes wasn't a terrible person, because I'm going to be quoting his, not
I
quoting, but
mean,
going off of his concept.
even bad people could say true
Oh yeah,
things. Like,
sure.
I don't think you have to worry about if this one person's a bad person.
Yeah.
The idea is that it, like you said, it comes from a meaning of a text or movie
Yeah.
or whatever comes from how it's interpreted as
Yeah, and
equally as just what the author intended, which
so
makes sense.
for this story, because it's how the viewer interprets it and less so what the author intended, any research I do is saying like, oh well, the director and writer, who I believe the director and writer was the same person, very clearly intended this to just be about this one specific thing. So it's about this one specific thing. If someone else watches it and they don't see that one specific thing and they just see this surface level story that it's just about, it can be argued this movie just really isn't for them if
Yeah.
you can't completely see what it's meant to be about. But then like to them, then if you can't see what it's about, it's understandably a pretty nothing movie almost, where like it doesn't hold its own enough without that. But I do think
Yeah.
under the
Well,
assumption that you
I
do
think
completely understand it,
if you
it's
don't understand the trans allegory and you just see it as a coming of age weird story type thing, it's probably just, man, that was weird. I didn't like that, and
yeah,
like
I do think
that's
it's very
fine.
hard to
I
enjoy if
think.
you don't see it.
Yeah.
And I think even if you do see it, but you don't really like, I don't know, like you're not as I don't want to say ingrained, but it seems like the best word to use here. Just you know, either being trans yourself or knowing someone that is personally, or just knowing about it more. It's still probably very hard to enjoy, even if you're like, oh, I can tell this is trans, that that doesn't really mean anything to me. It's still because I think a lot of the more emotional bits definitely have more emotion to them if you have your own personal feelings and thoughts about the whole topic. Which honestly, in that one scene, if anyone remember, I don't know if anyone noted this stuff down. In the second scene we see where Owen visits Maddie's house when they go to watch it again, and they go to watch the show, and she like starts crying while watching the show.
Mm-mm.
I
I did
I
wonder
have
about that
wondered
scene.
what exactly was going on there, and I think maybe that could be possibly
When she
some
finally
interpretation of it.
understands.
Either well, it's possible she's understood for a while, but just how like the difference in she understands what's going on more than he does, so she's seeing this.
Yeah.
Because I think the interpretation story-wise was just she's starting to realize that this is like that world is more real to her, the world inside the show.
Mhm.
So she is almost like having like missing it or having a longing to be back there. Because that is also the scene immediately after is when she says that she's gonna finally leave the town, and then the scene immediately after that she does.
Mhm.
So
It's also
that
like
could be it.
a pretty good detail, I'd say, and a somewhat funny note that Owen and Maddie are the only two people who ever acknowledged the show being good. Like the
Yeah,
Maddie's
they haven't.
supposed friend
that's
in
right.
ninth grade, like it's like this show's
She
stupid. I'm gonna go
watched.
smoke cigarettes.
Well, that was after the show's. I think that was after they finished. The show was done while she was like waiting to be picked up.
Oh,
Because they
probably,
weren't
but
watching anymore at that point. But the friend doesn't say anything about the show.
And either
yeah,
way, the
that's true.
friend was apparently a. I actually have
Asshole.
a quote here. Let me see. Her friend was, quote, a secret agent sent here to make her life miserable.
Oh,
I
interesting.
despise
Yeah.
That
the
language is
way that
very
Maddie
specific.
talks most of the time. She is like
That's
the
funny. I despise the way
perfect.
Owen talked.
I despise his voice.
Owen was
There's a lot of
Owen just
stuff that
acted
I.
so timid, which obviously,
Mm.
not necessarily anything wrong, but when you're the main character of an information dense movie, it makes it a lot less interesting to watch.
Whoever. Well, I say whoever. The writer who wrote Maddie's character had a perfect example of like middle school Tumblr girl person.
Oh boy.
Like that's I don't even think I knew anyone like that, but like that's exactly what I would picture someone like. Maddie is at least early on. Once she goes, a bit off the deep end, who knows? But early on, that is like that's just a real person. There's people that act exactly like that, and that is not a compliment to the compliment to the writing, not a compliment to the character. Those people are obnoxious. She did a very good job making someone that obnoxious.
Yeah.
I suppose we can finally get back to the point you
Wait.
were trying to make earlier, Nick, like ages ago.
What point was that?
Yeah, you
I made a
asked.
point about something, then I called the
Yeah.
You
director
asked,
ugly.
is there anyone that would say
Say
yes to
yes to
Andrew's
my
point? And then
question.
I give you a
Oh, that's right.
non-answer, so then you're like,
Yeah,
okay,
because
you can go first.
my answer is yes, it does matter. And actually, kind of specifically because of your point with the dead author.
Well, that's why I brought it up,
Yeah.
because I was saying I would say no, but because of that.
But in that case, why don't you just not watch the movie?
Well,
Like,
because
like
movies should be for. Well, I mean,
I do not think movies
be
should be
for
for
when I say be for everyone, it's not what you mean. I think anybody should be able to watch a movie, and if there's a metaphor present, understand it. And it's I'm saying it's the
Okay, yeah,
viewer's
that was
fault if they don't
definitely a
understand it.
different meaning than I was gonna say when I say for everyone.
That's what I'm like. All these
Or not for
people that go
everyone,
on and they comment like, "Oh, this movie was trash. It was about nothing. Nothing happened." I'm like, okay, you're stupid. In fact, it's probably our podcast viewers that watched this movie and wrote these reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause-
okay, well, there's a
oh,
difference
oh my
between
God.
like, somebody like not understanding and just like understanding and, just choosing not to like it, right? Like you mean when you say, people are stupid, you talk about like the former in that case,
I think
right?
Yeah, they show up, they watch the movie, they don't get it at all. But like when you read these reviews, it's like they didn't even try to get it. They didn't look for a metaphor. They're just like, no, there's nothing here. Like
Yeah, you
even
have to
if you
make an
don't see
attempt.
the main metaphor, it's a clever movie. There's other things you could find about it. That even if not for a metaphor, it's an interesting movie because like a lot of foreshadowing elements, albeit not very subtle, but there's a lot of it.
I
Some
think
of
the
it's
movie
subtle.
I think the movie, I don't want to say it takes its time. The movie's only like an
It's
hour
a
and a
little
half.
under 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, it's short,
say
but
I
it's
can
very
pull
like
up
it. Yeah, it very
hour
quickly, like
40.
early on, gives you like subtle hints, which I like. So one of the things I'm curious about is like, you know, I guess we all think that we all kind of get what it was getting at right away. I don't know. I
Mhm.
still think it was subtle though.
I
Like it
want.
never
I'm
beat you over
curious
the
No,
head with
just not
anything.
all
what
of it.
I'm curious at what point during watching did you guys like realize, okay, this is what it's about? Because I
I didn't like think about that at all while watching. It was when you asked me what I thought it was an allegory for. I was like, oh yeah,
okay, because
trans.
I remember I had like certain moments in my head of like, okay, if they haven't figured out by now, this will definitely be it, and this is probably when they'd find out, and maybe they can get some hints here. Dylan, he was taking notes while watching. I was sitting next to him. And at one point, I was like, "Oh, let me see what you're," because he had predictions specifically what he was writing of like what he thinks is gonna happen. Very, very early on, before I really think any of the really solid hints or even actual hints towards it show up, he wrote down that he like predicted it was about being trans, and I was like, I don't know how you got it that early. That's kind of
I
crazy.
mean, I knew. Okay, like I said before, I knew it was about something to do with
LGBTQ.
that, and I guess yeah, it seemed kind of obvious in my head, like a
I
movie. I see everything. It's about like stuff about being trans, and then you have the main character, and then within the first like minute of the movie, you get him under the parachute thingy that is entirely trans flag.
That
Yeah, I
Showed
parachute
did
is
not
the
notice that
biggest
until
example of
we
people
mentioned it.
saying, "Really, you see this scene and you don't realize?" Which honestly, I think that's a bit of a. It's
I
one of
don't
those
think
things where,
that's
like,
fair
if
to like
you already,
criticize though,
yeah,
because
yeah, no, if you already know what it's
our
about, yeah,
generation knows what the trans flag looks like.
I
You're not
feel
gonna
like
ask like any of our parents, and like they're not gonna know what the trans flag looks
I
like,
feel like
and
if
so
you
they would see
sampled
that and
all
just think,
those
oh, it's a
people,
parachute.
if you sampled all those people that uh didn't include that this movie was a trans allegory in their review, and you just asked them to list the colors for the trans flag, I feel like it would be under 50% of them who could name it.
I mean, I feel like even if you do completely know it, if you don't already know it's about trans stuff and you're not actively looking for it, it's it's kind of easy to miss that. Like it
I
could
think it
just be
is, but at the same
that's the
time,
colors that they used for the
I don't
thing.
know. When I think of like middle school experience with those giant, well, I think it happened more in elementary school for us than middle
Yeah,
school,
Yeah.
but with those
I
giant
think so.
like whatever you want to call it, it looks
I
like
have no idea what they
yeah,
are.
I don't even know what to call it, but basically a giant like tarp over all the students, and you sit on like around the circle so that it like holds all the air inside. Like I
Mhm.
think of much more traditional rainbow colored tarps, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So it would be a like I say this, and yet as I was watching the movie, I did not even notice that those were the colors chosen. But I don't know. I think if you're like watching this movie looking in for a deeper meaning, maybe you can catch that a little bit easier. I
Mhm.
don't know. I also want to point something out. I wasn't taking notes or making predictions, so I have no way to verify this, but I promise I am not just lying to make myself seem smarter. I did think like a prediction I thought about at the start of the movie was I think the character Owen is going to come out as trans, which he didn't. It ended up being an allegory for being trans, but just between all the he didn't really fit in with any group. He didn't express interest in any particular thing. He was kind of figuring himself out. I did think that his character would end up being trans, which again, he
I do
didn't. So
think
technically that prediction's wrong.
he kind of, I think he maybe did. There was that scene that had no actual like explanation because it was just being played over the audio of another scene of flashbacks of when they were in high school, and he was like wearing the dress and they would go to like the football field and stuff,
hmm
which do have some implication towards.
Well, I want to reiterate because I said this while we were watching the movie. Cross dressing is not trans.
No,
There are
but
cis
I mean,
people who
in
cross dress.
in this
When
movie,
you add it to all the other you know, meanings and stuff, yes, it definitely could be or should be interpreted that way, or more likely to
Well,
be
real
interpreted
quick,
that way.
I disagree, but continue. All right, there's a little aspect here I wanted to get to,
Mm.
and that's that this movie, despite what, well, not Letterboxd, what the Google reviews would have you believe, this movie is clever, unlike most people that watch movies, apparently. Because there's a lot of shit put into this movie that, like, either relates to the ending or relates to the plot twist or relates to the theme, but we already talked y'all dumbasses ears off about that, so
I want to reiterate, y'all
there's
are very dumb,
Incredibly dumb.
and that's
there's
just
an
pure
unreal amount of
statistics.
foreshadowing in this
Yeah.
movie.
We have evidence. You wouldn't understand. Don't even try.
Yeah, there is actually
Alright,
an absurd amount of foreshadowing. That's why I wanted to look at one of y'all's notes, because I didn't really have the time this week to rewatch this movie, but I could tell once I like got what the twist was, which I'd say was, I don't know, maybe halfway through the movie. I was like, oh, him and her are probably. Oh, so what I thought originally was that they were gonna go to the world of the Pink Opaque, and then I realized later that they came from it. Oh, we didn't even really explain the twist of the movie yet, I don't think.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, we're kind of going under the assumption that they have watched it.
That's true. Well, I mean,
If you don't get it, that's your fault.
maybe you have listeners who don't care about watching the movie but still want to hear the discussion.
That's fair. I can give a quick
Alright,
synopsis there then.
Alright.
Yeah, go for
The
it.
whole plot twist of I'm gonna explain this from the context of just the actual story of the movie, ignoring any possible metaphor there. The plot twist of the movie is that the show that they watched as kids, eventually at a certain point, I mentioned earlier, Maddie disappears. She's gone for a while, and you just follow Owen on his own for a while, and he's growing up. He has, I'm pretty sure by this point he winds up.
Sorry, I want to specify. Her disappearing is shown as her running away from home.
Yes, it's specifically.
It's not like, yeah, because she like mentions before that scene that she wants to get out of this place or whatever. It's not like she wakes up or like he wakes up and she vanishes before his eyes or something. It's
very it's of her own.
Yeah, it's explained within the world as she ran away from home.
Yeah, but so eventually, when he's more grown up, a couple years later, I don't remember exactly how many years. 8 years then.
Yeah.
She reappears, and he explains to him that, in a very cryptic speech that she has to him, basically explains that the show that they watched when they were younger is actually the real world. It's what's actually happening, and the two of them, Owen and Maddie, are the two main characters of the show. Isabel and
Tara.
I knew it was something of a T. I was going to say Tina. They're Isabel and Tara. And in the season finale, or series finale of the show, because it got canceled during that time while she was gone, shortly after she was gone, I think. In the series finale, they get captured by the big bad Mr. Melancholy, who's a whole nother can of worms.
He
to get into.
Basically he just looks like the moon with like an evil face.
A weird face, really weird evil face. But
looks a little bit like Surge, just a little bit.
I say it looks like what Zelda game was it? Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But so basically, he captures them and cuts out their hearts, feeds them this juice called the Luna juice, and then sends them to this place called.
Lean.
It's just lean. It's just like spacey lean.
I have to taste the Luna juice.
I think it looks delicious. It just looks like lavender milk or something. Amazing. I would love to try it. But he sends them to this place called
lean mixed with milk.
What does he call it?
It's called the Midnight Realm.
Yeah.
The Midnight Realm. And the Midnight Realm is what we have, up until this point in the movie, thought was
what
the real
we all
world.
live in right now.
It's where we are right now.
That's right, viewers. You're not real.
You don't exist. So Maddie basically says that
They're just
she
agents
got
of Mr.
buried alive
Melancholy.
intentionally. She paid someone to
Yeah, she
bury her
paid
alive.
some like horny dude who was hitting on
Some
her
horny
to.
burnout guy
Yeah.
to bury her, and that sends her back to the real world. Air quotes there.
Yeah.
And well, I guess not air
She
quotes. I guess it is the real world,
in
and
this movie it is the real world.
it is the real, really is the real world. But so she goes there, finds out what's happening to her and Isabel, because she is now Tara there,
Oh,
and
I thought
decides to
Owen was Tara.
no,
Am I
Owens Isabel.
misremembering?
No.
Oh, okay.
Tara's no, she owns Isabel. But
Okay.
she comes back and's like, oh, and this is what's going on. You gotta join me. We gotta bury ourselves alive to go back to save us, because right now we're dying,
Like,
and if
yeah.
we go back,
They
we can
they do
stop
explicitly say that like every year in the Midnight Realm is just a few seconds or something in
yeah. So it's only a
the
little bit
real
of
world.
time has passed in the real world
Yeah.
during the entire course of this
So
movie.
like 23 years old, I guess he is.
Yeah,
Owen.
somewhere early
Yeah.
20s.
So like that's only been presumably, I guess, a few minutes or something in.
Or maybe not even a few minutes, maybe just
Yeah.
like a minute or so. But either way, he then goes, I'm gonna she tries to get him to follow, and
So to yeah.
yeah, there we go.
So basically, Maddie comes back and is like, "Take the red pill," and then Owen's like, "No, I don't want to," and he takes the blue pill. And this
And then she
movie's The
disappears again.
Matrix.
And then there's a time skip again to when he's in his like 50s, I think, or 40s.
It says
maybe?
20 years later, so he'd be
20
like
years. Okay, so
early
he's like
40s.
mid-40s.
But apparently he has kids and a wife at
He
this
has
point.
kids and what we assume he has a wife. He just says
Yeah.
he has a family of his own. Just
Yeah.
assuming it's kids and wife. Who knows?
Could be he
We never
became a
see that.
crazy cat person. We don't really know.
Could be. And then the movie end. Honestly, I think there's something here that happens close to the end. I think it could have done without, maybe, where he's basically now saying to himself, is what Maddie was saying true? Do I even know if this is real? And that's the whole reason why he didn't go along with it, because burying yourself alive is pretty spooky when you don't
No, it's
know whether or
not.
not you're just actually burying yourself alive or not, or you're, saving yourself from dying, whatever. But he's now like much older, and he has a moment where he kind of seemingly realizes, oh no, yeah, I'm dying. This is not the real world, and he like has a breakdown. Most uncomfortable scene in the whole movie to me, at least. She's like freaking out at a kid's birthday party, and like everyone else in the room, as he's freaking out, just like stops moving and stops reacting.
It
Which
makes
is
it seem like time has
creepy.
frozen.
Yeah, because like everyone just completely stands still and doesn't do anything, like looks down a little bit. But then he like goes to the bathroom and like cuts himself open and like pulls his chest open, and he like sees TV static coming out of his chest, which is a like complete yes, Maddie's story is completely real. And then the movie kind of just
Possibly
ends
the worst
there.
part of the movie.
I think it is the worst part of the movie, because I think that kind of, if it was still left to interpretation of whether or not she was telling the truth, then it would have made the story. I think finding out that she was telling the truth doesn't hurt the metaphor, but it does hurt the story, the narrative
Dude,
of it.
Exactly what I'm saying.
It kind of makes it where it's like, oh, so he did just waste his time, and then it makes it even more frustrating that that's how the movie ends. It doesn't. It's not clear whether he actually chooses to do anything. It just cuts back to this sidewalk chalk art that we've seen a couple times throughout the movie, where it's a bunch of stuff, just a bunch of like drawings and stuff. But in the very big center, it says there is still time. Basically, a message to him saying there's still time. You can still get back to the
Escape.
world and save
Yeah.
yourself and escape. But it's unclear if he actually does that, because he stitches himself back up, just walks back out,
Yeah.
and apologizes for the
It's
disturbance, and
implied
that's
that he goes.
Doesn't.
I feel like it's implied that he goes down without returning to the real world, and
That's
that
my assumption.
Isabel dies, and then
Yeah.
that leaves Tara on her own. It would have been, I guess, maybe unnecessary, but maybe interesting to see from the side of the real world, like what happens where Isabel actually dies, and see Tara's reaction to it, see what happens from there.
I feel like that maybe would have been
But,
just too
yeah.
much. Like, it's not
Probably
completely
unnecessary.
necessary.
Yeah. I mean, what you said when we finished watching the movie was that it got a bad ending, not that the ending was poorly made,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that what you
It
wanted
is
to happen
not a
doesn't.
happy ending. It is taking it from a narrative standpoint. The ending is not very good, and it's not very happy. Taking it from a metaphor standpoint, it's the bad ending. It's
Yeah.
he has grown up. He's gotten to the point where there is still time. You can still go ahead and become
You know
who you
what?
really are,
For the
and then you
sake
give
of
up and don't do it.
For the sake of the metaphor, I think it's actually a good thing that it ended the way that it does,
Oh no, I don't
because
think
it should
the
be
metaphor
like,
is hurt. I'm thinking like
no,
I'm
no,
saying that.
I'm saying like it tells a different start of a different side of the like trans identity, trans story, I guess, where there are so many, closeted trans people in the world who grow old, they force themselves to conform to the societal standards or whatever, and
Oh yeah, I mean the bad as in not happy part of it is the fact that it's very heavily implied that he will just never. He's going to stay like that forever until
yeah,
the
yeah,
end.
but I'm saying there's a lot of trans people in the world who do that, who like,
Yeah, yeah, but like that's not the good outcome.
oh yeah,
They're
yeah.
still
No, I
bad.
know, I know. I'm saying I think it's a good thing that the movie showed that, because I think it's
Yeah,
important for people to understand that. I wasn't disagreeing. I wasn't trying to say it's a good ending, or like that Owen got the good ending. I'm saying that it's a good way to show another aspect of the the allegory that it's trying to represent.
hmm
So, in that sense, I think it is actually a fitting ending for
yeah.
what the movie's trying to share.
I guess that's just another point where there's the ending, especially, is where they're sacrificing the narrative for the metaphor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm
There were a couple narrative decisions I didn't like. That I don't. Obviously, that's the main one. I think if the movie should have cut out basically right after he freaked out in that room,
and just leave it
Like
up in the
that's the
air.
last scene.
or like he's just like laying down in the bathroom or something. He like picks up the box cutter and then it cuts to black or whatever. It's just
That
the fact
oh
that the
my,
movie just straight up tells you. I hate that shit.
that is such a bleaker ending of him picking up the box cutter because you don't know that him picking up the box cutter is him checking
That's
to
what
see if
I
it's real.
mean.
You think he's just gonna kill himself if that being
No,
the
no, no, no,
ending.
no, no, no. Because think about it. If it's the fake world, he doesn't kill. Well, I mean, who knows? That's the whole point. You have no fucking clue what's gonna happen because if it is the fake world, then what happens when he cuts himself open? Or if Tara was just some, or Tara, what the fuck? What's her
Maddie.
name in the fake book? Maddie.
Maddie.
If Maddie was just some crazy bitch after all, he just kills himself because I wouldn't blame him, to be honest. His life was fucking horrible at the end of the movie.
He was
He was
a
40
40-year-old man
something, working
restocking a
kids,
ball pit.
yeah, and
Yeah.
working kids' birthday parties.
Most
I have that in
chapbooks
my
I've ever
notes.
seen in my life.
His
Which-
life literally amounted to nothing.
So the movie starts in what, 1996, and then we move forward 30 years in time from there. So that puts it at 2026. If he's restocking ball pits as his like primary source of income in like this economy, whew, he should kill himself.
And it's
Oh,
weird.
That's really
It
fucked.
shows him.
Don't kill
that is
yourself.
great. It shows him in his house. He just buys a new like big flat screen TV, and he has like a nice. I think it's his parents' house.
Yeah,
To be
yeah.
fair, but like
That's how you gotta make it in this world. Your dad
how does
has
he
a
even afford
stroke and your
TV,
mom
much
dies to
less
cancer, so that you
food?
just inherit their house. Well, if you're not paying rent, like, this world's not that expensive. Well, I mean, that's
Is
not
that
true.
true at all?
It's a primary.
Mortgages are much better than rent because
Yeah.
at least you can get all that money back at some point.
Yeah, and also like
Well,
if
not all
you're
of it, but
if
a
you're
good chunk of it.
if you're renting, you're literally working towards nothing. You're working towards not living on the street, as opposed to a mortgage where you're working towards owning your own property, which presumably his family or his parents had already paid off this house. So in that case, all he doesn't even have a. I mean, I'm assuming a lot here, but
Yeah.
if
Still
the
fun
house,
part of the movie
yeah,
here.
if the
It's
house
big cost.
is fully paid for, then working as a ball pit work or like filler, and just to like pay for food and taxes is pretty presumable. He won't ever be able to retire, but he won't be like struggling to find his next
Consider it
meal.
this way. You remember Maddie was talking about how time just like doesn't work? I mean, like,
yeah,
you
she
notice
mentioned
If you
that.
like think back on things, they don't seem to happen
Yeah.
in the order you remember them or something.
I actually had the quote
mirroring your
here.
own life, right?
She said, "Time wasn't right. It was moving too fast. I was 19, then I was 20, then I was 21. Like chapters skipped over in a DVD, yada yada yada."
I mean, when someone says that, people say that in the real world, or sorry, in our
No.
world. I want to differentiate it from the discussion here. Like, people say, man, value your youth. Time moves too fast. Next thing I knew, I was in my 30s. And, like, whenever you think back on life, like, you know, I remember vividly when I was 12 and playing baseball, and it doesn't seem that long ago, but it was, 10 years ago at this point, so you could say that time's moving too quickly to us too, if that's your perception on it. So I don't know how I feel about that quote being like a set in stone, this world is moving too quickly, or if it's just getting older.
Well,
It always
was
feels that
in
way.
the movie, at least from her perspective, because this was at the point where it was still up in the air
Mhm.
whether she was telling the truth or not, but it was definitely from the point of her trying to say that that was like one of the first pieces of evidence to her that something was wrong and that
Yeah.
Yeah.
there was something else.
All I'm saying is that,
we
like,
know for sure that it's a fake world.
Yeah.
all I'm saying is that in that context, we're still just taking her at her word. Like, we don't see her experiencing life too fast. It's not like we see some representation of time passing her by. She just comes back 8 years later and is like, yo, time's crazy. Life moved by
Yeah,
so
but that was just
quickly.
at that point in the movie. Like by the end of the movie, you know she's telling the truth. So
Yeah.
the whole mystery of that is gone.
Yeah.
Like so she's literally saying time didn't move right at all. Which is fair because that makes me believe that the time skips in the movie are canon.
Oh, time just
Like,
actually splits
Oh,
there.
that's
Yeah,
an
like,
interesting
said he had a
idea.
he said, "I got myself a family, and I love them more than anything." And then it cuts to 20 years in the future. You never see his family. That was potentially the only
That's
time
such
he
a
would ever
meta
connect.
take. That's so sick,
And-
actually.
Do you
I'm just
And
believe
then
wondering
that
if something that makes
genuinely,
this
or
sick.
any happy moment in his life is gone, skipped over.
I'm gonna
Interesting.
fully go into the assumption on
Wait.
any future rewatches that that's exactly what's happening because that is the
Yeah.
sickest take.
That's...
I like that idea. I don't know. I as much as I want to believe it because it's cool. I mean, what would his family add to the story realistically?
What
That is another
Show-
good point.
But
This is
show,
a very
like,
low budget
something for
story.
him to be
it would
happy
make
about.
Nathan happy.
Yeah. There's literally
Yeah.
not a moment in this movie aside from when he's watching the Pink Opaque that he seems like a happy person.
Isn't that
He
kind of the
didn't
point,
really
though?
seem happy while watching that either. He seems more like enthralled
Yeah,
and kind of in a bad
But-
way.
But that's what I'm saying, Dylan. Because
Mm.
they don't show his family, you don't get to see him ever happy. So,
Mm.
by showing his
That's-
family, it would have kind of maybe ruined that element of the movie.
Mhm.
So
Or is he just like lying about, or is he trying to tell himself that yes, I am happy with
he's
my
lying
family?
he's lying to the viewers. Like, no,
I mean,
I got laid, guys.
maybe. I mean, he's lying, not only is he lying, has he been lying to himself the entire movie up until that point, but wouldn't he then also just naturally be lying to his family about who he really is? He's not being completely honest with them. Does he really love them that much if he can't even afford to do that?
His
might
family
do-
doesn't exist. It's the Midnight Realm. They're not real.
Yeah, they're agents of Mr. Melancholy.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Mr. Melancholy put them in that fake world and was like, you know what? Not only am I going to put you in a fake world to kill you, I'm also going to make your life miserable in this fake world.
Yeah.
Your mom's going to
Mr.
get cancer, your
Melancholy's
dad's going to get a
fucking
stroke, you're just going to be depressed.
Yeah, but
also your dad.
he's
Oh,
he's an
wait,
A
dude.
tier hater because of that, and that's honestly kind of
Also,
sick.
You know,
there
his
is
mom was actually like decent. Like his mom was a good person that loved him, and she fucking died of cancer when he was
well,
a
she
child.
did. She
Jesus.
cared for him, but there was still the whole like. I mean, that almost there was like a bit of a plot there of the whole his dad super over controlling, and it's unclear, at least to me, whether or not the
No,
mom
no,
was.
no. I'm gonna headcanon this. His dad, Fred Durst, was not being over controlling. He was trying to signal Owen that he's actually. When he said his one line in the film, "Isn't that a show for girls?" That should have made Owen go, "Oh my god, I'm a girl," and then the movie should have ended.
I did think not to give any credit to what you just said, but I did think the delivery when he said that, he didn't seem like he was saying it in the tone that that line would or should be said with like the connotation
Yeah,
you think. The way he said it definitely seemed a lot more like just he didn't seem like angry or
he
like
was like
confrontational
confused
about it.
why his kid cares about the
Yeah, he's
show.
like, isn't that a show for girls? Not like at all like accusing Owen
I
of
like how
anything.
as soon as we
I thought he
watched
sounded
that
kind of
line,
pissed when he said it.
I like how as soon
Did
as we
he?
saw that line, we all
He's like,
just
"Is that
went
a
to
show
the
for girls?" With like a little snarl.
we all
Immediately.
went to the meme that's like Fred the line was and
Yeah,
something much
everyone
less.
said. You know what's crazy though? It is also implied that because his dad was played by Fred Durst in the Midnight Realm,
Limp
there can't be
Bizkit
two
didn't
Fred
exist
Dursts.
in the Midnight
So
Realm.
there is
It
no Fred
truly
Durst
is
in the
hell.
Midnight Realm. That's yeah, wow. Mr. Melancholy is like the most devious villain, I
Yeah.
guess.
What's life without Limp
You know,
Bizkit?
I had some thoughts that maybe any of you have some more input on. Mr. Melancholy.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear there was the whole thing there. Mr. Melancholy is meant to be the either just like the inner or the society or just some sort of force basically pushing you to saying like no you can't do it and stopping you from
Mm-hmm.
going ahead of
He's
anything.
Big Brother.
There's I feel like there's something more of him. There's so much I don't know why, but it felt like there was just so many like details to him that were such odd choices. I'm like that I was thinking like these can't just be completely random things. Like first of all, the whole him being the man of the moon. Is that anything? The weird way he's shown when you actually see him, not when you see him as part of the episodes of the show, when they're watching on the TV, where he is just like almost looks like an evil version of the sun from Teletubbies, where he's like just a physical face juxtaposed onto the moon. But when you see him in the series finale, when he's actually like a person walking around, he's got this like weird effect on the sides of his head where it's like growing and shrinking and like morphing and changing. And I don't know if I said it when we were recording or I mentioned this earlier, but it looks a lot like to me one of those like weird. There's a lot of like deep fake AI video stuff. Back when that
Mm.
tech, I say back when, this was like months ago because it's going ridiculously fast, but when that was like a lot less accurate and, developed, things looked like weird, trippy visuals where like stuff was like morphing in and out and didn't make sense. It almost reminded me
Mm-hmm.
of that, where it's like, I just want to know why did he look like that? Why did they have all those stuff about him? Is it just okay, we're gonna have this villain to represent the status quo, that whole thing. Let's just make a cool villain design, or is there reasons behind those choices? I want to know if any of y'all have any like actual ideas there.
Well,
I mean, in the context of the movie, Mr. Melancholy is just like he is just a villain
mm,
in the show, at least to initially. I think the design, honestly, it's just he looks he looks threatening, he looks scary, and I really don't think there's anything too in depth to talk
yeah,
about him
I kind of
there.
agree. I think
I,
he
I
looks.
feel like that is true. It's just like
Yeah.
disappointing because I just think he's such a cool design. I wish there was more to why he has that design.
I think.
I mean, there could be. I personally just don't think there is.
Yeah, I think he's like a. He's just like a well designed villain for a kid show.
Mm-hmm.
Like a freaky looking guy who wants to make you drink the lunar juice to take over the world. Like it's cartoonishly evil. And I
Side
think
note: the original version of the Pink Opaque, the one that they see that when they're younger, not the
Hmm.
weird version that it turned out to actually be
Not
when he was
the
older. Which
everybody's friends, let's try and
yeah,
solve our problems with power of friendship bullshit.
yeah, not that lame one, but the original one.
Mm.
I don't know if it's just me. That would be a fire show. I would totally watch that. That looks sick. It looked like a more weird, messed up version of like Goosebumps or something.
Dude, that show exists. It's called The X-Files.
I love the X Files.
That's basically
That
apart
tracks.
from the psychic shit, it's the same thing.
Well, did it have? Did it have the same like? I feel like the X Files was a lot less willing to like show. They didn't show like the
I
really
haven't seen that much
creepy
of it.
looking weird villains.
Then I guess it's more like Supernatural. Because they definitely did show weird looking villains in that show.
I suppose I have not seen that one. I've been told I would like it, but I have not watched it.
I feel like I mean I've only seen the commercials for Supernatural that aired when I was watching the Flasher Arrow as a kid, but what I would assume is that the villains that look kind of weird in that are more based off lack of budget from the CW than like
Mhm.
intention, like the way the ice cream monster looked in that early episode when they first show it, like it's like dripping down the face, it's like screaming. It looks
You know what
like a horror element.
the villain design kind of remind me of? Almost like a, and this might be the look that they were going for. Of I've never watched the show like actually, but like sometimes would see Power Rangers on TV.
Hmm.
Almost like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
villains in Power Rangers like that, but if someone accidentally made it a very scary design, it wasn't intentionally supposed to be scary. It was supposed to be kind of
yeah.
creepy,
It's like those
but they
low
accidentally made
budget.
it
Well, I mean,
terrifying.
the show was supposed to be like a '90s show, so
Yeah,
the
yeah,
low
no,
budget
it's
costumes matches with the Power Ranger
it's a
aesthetics.
bit before our
So,
time, but I've seen a lot of people in reviews saying
I
like,
mean,
I've
a lot of
watched
those
it doesn't
Power
exist, but I
Ranger
have
shows,
watched the show.
I think the Power Ranger shows aired in the '90s, right? Most of them, and then they had
Yeah,
like the
no, Power
newer.
Rangers, Goosebumps, and there was another
I didn't even
show
know
that I've been.
Goosebumps was a show. I just thought it was the book series.
I think there was a Goosebumps show, but there's a
No, there
Probably.
specific
was.
I used to watch
Yeah,
it.
Okay.
there's a
I
specific
watched it a
TV
few
series
times
that
as
like
well.
apparently was the biggest influence for making. I'll see if I can find it. Well, we continue talking, but
Hmm.
yeah, there was something that was meant to be like a big influence for
Oh,
the Pinko Pig.
yeah. I suppose we've kind of fizzled out this conversation. So, Nick, do you want to actually talk about this movie as a movie?
Oh yeah,
I hit the key point. There's like, I mean, there's a couple of technical things that I didn't like about the movie. I could just touch on those quickly. We're probably running out of time. So there's the, if you remember on the bleachers, and Maddie was like, so there's the shit about the microphone quality, not very good. But obviously, this is a low budget A24 movie, so I don't fault it for that. Oh yeah, that shit, the shit with the bands on stage at the bar. If they did
Oh.
one, I'd be like, okay, pretentious edition, it is what it is. But they did two, so I was like, oh, why?
dude, the
There's
issue
it's 0%
was
substance.
it was so if you know why, it looks absolutely like it's just super pretentious, long takes on stuff for no reason. It's really because they spent, at the very least, one, I'm fairly certain both of the singers of the first time they show singers, no idea who that third person was, but the two singers that were singing together, at least one of them, I'm pretty sure both of them, definitely like soaked up a good portion of this movie's budget to get them in the movie. So they were going to take everything they could for
Okay, but
get their money's worth.
it didn't add anything to the movie
no, it definitely
anyways.
didn't
They
add to
didn't
the
They
need
could've
to
saved
hire
their
those
money.
singers.
They could have saved 3 minutes of movie time. The movie's an hour 40. They could have cut 3 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But that's why
Yeah.
it's happening. It's for a stupider reason than trying to be.
Oh, sorry. I just had a
deep.
question. I don't remember the exact timeline of events for this. When do they show her drawing the Pinko Pig symbol on his neck and then it like glowing? Is that
Is
in the
while they're still in
flashback?
high school. No, it's not a flashback. It's while they're still in high school.
No,
It's,
it only glowed in a flashback.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's.
did it? Yeah, I think you're
But
right. there,
didn't he
but
have
it-
like
that's-
didn't he have trouble like getting it off his neck?
it glow
Mhm.
the
Yeah, this is
marker
after the
spelled
scene Nick was talking about when they're all
yes,
when they're on
on
the
their
bleachers.
bleachers, and that scene ends with him saying, "Hey, can I come over and watch Pickle Pick with you
Oh
again?"
yeah, yeah.
Then he does join, and then that happens after they watch it in that scene.
Okay. All right.
I'd
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I'd like to talk just really quickly
Yeah.
about like just the style and just little things that I appreciated on second watch. Like, granted, none of these things necessarily make the movie better. I just think it demonstrates like a lot of care and just just adding things where they're really they didn't have to, but I wanted to make it more like give you more hints and stuff. I liked how I think right off the bat. Um, it's like the opening shot, or one of the opening shots, is Isabel on the football field, and she's kind of like reaching out. And then later in the movie, like Owen is tackling Maddie, and like he runs away. And then like after that scene happens, like after the scene happens at the beginning of the movie, and Owen's like young Owen is like moving to the TV. Um, she says, "It can't hurt you if you don't think about if." Oh my God, that was way correct. It can't hurt you if you don't think about it. I don't like it obviously it foretells like what's gonna happen,
Mhm.
going forward in Owen psychology. And it's just a nice little like thing to include. Like, and now that, I'm watching again, like, oh, I get what that means.
That you
Um
guys may have actually missed that because I think there was another point that I remember. It was like I think it was before the volume was quiet at some point. They actually the whole "it can't hurt you if you don't think about it" thing actually gets mentioned a couple times, and it's really really early on. Is the first time. It's when he first sees a trailer for the show on TV, which I
yeah.
think is maybe
Yeah, that's
even
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
it comes up a couple more times though. I don't
Does it?
remember
Okay.
exactly all of them, but it does
I
come up
have it
a bit.
written down twice actually.
It happens two more times or two times total.
No, I have it written down twice because
Oh,
from the TV trailer and then later on, like right before he tackles Maddie on the field, he
oh
says
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like the Green Lords. It's not real if I don't think about it, and then he bolts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of that literally parallels like what happened at the beginning of the movie, because Isabel, like on the football field, is like reaching out, and she presumably is the one that says that. So I just thought that was a cool little detail.
Mm-hmm.
And just like in the first scene, or one of the, not the first scene, but one of the first times he's talking to Maddie, like he's what you call it, she's like leaning on like the black vending machine. He's leaning on the pink, the more colorful
Uh,
vending machine. And there's the scene where like 10, 15 minutes later, he's in like the dark drab hallway, and then he gets to the hallway where there's more like there's trans like colors in it, more pinks and blues and all that. And then all of a sudden he just has a bit more pep in his step and he's walking more confidently. It's just little things like that that I think hammer home like the point of the movie and what it's about, and just show a
I
lot of
remember
care. So
one of the first parts of it that I noticed of being like, oh, this is actually also a pretty well made movie. I also noticed some flaws in how it was made, but um, the colors all around I thought were really like a lot of times it would use like really bright neon colors coming from like weird angles onto the screen that sometimes I felt like they maybe didn't completely make sense of like where they were coming from, but it just gave like a cool like uncanny sort of visual to a lot of the scenes without happening. I don't know if it meant
oh
much, but I just thought it was pretty cool.
yeah,
no, I think
like I
I think
say,
it
I
I
like
don't
it the way
think
it
it doesn't make the movie, like if it was in the movie, or sorry, if it was removed from the movie, it wouldn't make the movie bad. But
yeah,
the
but it
fact
made
that
it
it's in
slightly
the
more
movie,
enjoyable to see.
yeah, like the fact that it's in the movie doesn't make it good. It just, it's just a thing you notice and you
Hmm.
appreciate, and it shows that, you know, like we pay attention to the movie for, noticing things like that, and the director cares about the movie by including stuff like that, and it's just, it's just like good to see that. I guess my point is like it's good to see that, directors making a movie that they very clearly like have a lot of passion for.
yeah.
So
There's one shot actually that I want to bring up real quick too. Every time you see Isabel on screen, it's got like the VHS like filter over it, and it's at a
Mhm.
4:3 ratio because it's supposed to be like a 90s TV show. But there's one shot where you see Isabel, and it's right after Owen. I think it's like the shot. It focuses on Owen, and it's 16:9 in like the normal colors, and then it fades to Isabel, except it's also in clear colors in a 16:9 shot, and then it fades to Owen at 15, which I metaphor. I just thought it was it was obviously on purpose. It was very obviously on purpose. I just
Definitely.
think it's interesting that because yeah, I mean, my guess is that it's foreshadowing that they're the same person. But I thought it was cool detail just in the camera work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else want the floor?
Nah.
I already said I didn't like the acting very much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
Except
acting
for
was.
Fred Durst. He did a great job.
I don't know. I feel like I can't tell how much I liked Justice Smith's acting because of the choice of, and I know there's an actual good reason as to why this choice was made, but the voice. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll say it forever. I hate the stupid voice. The voice was a choice made because, from my interpretation at least, there's a whole thing about like it frequently showing him having like trouble breathing and him choking and stuff, and I think that voice kind of plays into that part of it. I hate the way it sounds so much. I hated hearing him talk. It took me out of a few like more emotional scenes where I'm like, wow, I would be like so much more into this if I didn't hear this stupid sound coming out of his mouth. Um, I thought Maddie's actor was pretty good.
Ronnie Radke. Yeah.
Ronnie Radke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I thought the opposite.
Yeah, I agree. I also think the opposite.
you thought he was a. Well, I didn't think he was a bad acting. I just
No, I thought he
can't-
did great, and whoever played Maddie was not that good.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he is like, yeah, the voice is annoying. I don't think he would, tell you, imagine listening to that all day. Like, you would go insane. But he's very
imagine having to
convincing.
make that voice all day. Oh my god.
Yeah, but he's
Switching.
very like he's very convincing. It's like I fully believe that he's somebody with like zero confidence, and he's just having so much emotional struggles. And I don't know, some of Maddie's deliveries are just whatever. There's this, I think it's the scene where with the scene with the young Owen, who's young Owens is he's a little kid, I know, but he's fucking terrible.
Yeah, there's some
But
delivery that's like
she's like she says like, so
very
what
off.
did you think about it, the movie or something like that, and it just sounds like, I guess that's the script and not necessarily her, but I just noticed it like every time
There
she was
Human
was
saying
dialogue is
that, and
hard
it
to
just,
write.
there was
yeah,
some parts. So like, there was obviously
maybe it
like
was
the
not her dialogue,
that
but
thing that they do in movies that are slightly pretentious of long pauses in middle of dialogue and middle shots, whatever. I felt like the kid actor for Owen was trying to do that, but he was not putting the pauses in the right places where like normally in other scenes, the pause will come in a place where there normally would be some sort of pause. It just gets extended by way too much. He would just wait to say his lines for too long, I think sometimes, because it would just kind of sit on him for a bit and then he would say something. And it was just he was like the definitely out of everyone I could tell the most. It was like this is just someone acting on screen. Like this looks like someone
Yeah.
on like a stage play or something.
yeah, you're not watching young Owen, you're watching, what's the name of it, what's the name, I'm gonna look up.
The actor's name is Ian Foreman.
Yeah, like that's who you're watching. You're watching Ian Foreman try and be Owen. You're not watching Owen.
We're watching Ian Foreman say lines that he memorized.
Yeah, exactly. Like no real emotion behind them.
Yeah.
Again, it's a kid, but
Yeah, that's why I love
whatever.
Justice Smith's performance. Not once during the first time I watched that movie, I'm like, damn, Justice Smith is doing really good right now. I was just like, wow, I believe this character.
I think maybe it was that it's not that I thought he was doing a bad job acting, it's that I guess a similar thing was with Maddie though, of where the character themselves, I was like, wow, this is just a frustrating person. Like Owen is kind of annoyingly. There's a lot annoyingly there, but guess yeah, not bad acting, more so just intentionally slightly annoying acting. And if that's the case, then yeah, it was a pretty damn good job doing that.
Good job, Justice Smith.
Good job, Justice
Uh,
Smith. You're very
Whatever the
believable.
intention is, if they get it right, then I guess they did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually looking at I'm looking at the cast now just to see oh, it's these people and anything else. It's just reminding me there's barely any characters in this movie.
Which I think is
Yeah.
intentional to
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
This is the
Which makes it
Midnight
almost
Realm.
kind of weird how some people that are character I feel like him at work, he has a conversation with his coworkers at one point. It didn't add that much, and I feel like the less people you have actually existing, because for the most part, you barely even see. Not only is there barely any characters talking, there's barely any people around. Like his school, you only ever really see the school after school, and there's barely anyone in there. Um, at work, you barely see anyone there. The only time you actually see any meaningful crowd is the very, very first scene when they're doing the voting thing. You see some people standing around that first room, and at the very end in the party, at that whole building, you see people. But outside of that, I can't think of anywhere where you really see more than a small handful of people around. Maybe at that fair he goes to, but even then, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, either way, it costs nothing to get an extra. You give
Yeah.
me $50, call it a day.
But I think it seemed more eerie and off-putting and fake almost. The fact that so many of the places that they were just
Oh yeah.
didn't
Wait.
have people in them. And Maddie Bean brings it up at one
There
point
were 5 other people at that school, weren't there?
when he was walking through the hallways.
Yeah,
Well,
he
he
straight
did
up only passed by
It was
a small.
It was
handful of
I'm
after
pretty
people.
sure it was
school.
after school every time you see
Yeah.
it. You never see the school during school hours.
All right, but does nobody go to clubs in that school? What
That's
a
fair.
fucking boring ass school.
I that is one thing because there was the whole line that Maddie has at one point where she's like, it's weird seeing the school transform. First, she talks about the voting thing, seeing it all change of voting, and then she mentions the whole inflatable planetarium thing where when they do that, the whole place changes and is weird. And I feel like a lot of the scenes were like that, where it's a normal place but just kind of off and odd looking and eerily empty all the time. And then they just don't do that all the time.
God damn,
Or
Mr.
whatever.
Melancholy, he's back at it again.
I can't even find Mr. Melancholy on the cast list.
It was probably just. I don't. I couldn't. I mean, the body honestly could have been completely animated for all I know.
According to Wikipedia, it's somebody named Emma Portner.
Oh yeah, I just found that. Emma Porter, known for. Wow.
Known for what?
Okay, so we got 3 other things. Spirit of Gozer from Ghostbusters Afterlife. Dancer in a music video.
Oh.
And additional crew in a single episode of The Umbrella Academy.
Wow.
Wow.
What a padded resume.
Glowing roles.
Wait, there's more. Dancer in 2 more music videos, and then where it lists the role, it just has her name in a Justin Bieber music video. And that's everything.
Well, that's really cool.
I don't know why we went into that. Whatever.
Yeah. Anyways,
Don't
I
matter.
think we've mainly wrapped up our discussion points here. Unless anyone else
believe
had
so.
anything major to add.
Nothing from me.
I give this movie 5 John Cenas out of 9.
5 out of.
All right. I mean, do y'all just want to give our overall ratings at the end here?
Yeah, I think it's always a good thing to do.
All right, so Nick gave it a 5 out of 9.
Okay, be real. What do you at? What's your actual rating?
I didn't want to give it a 5 out of 10, so
10
I
out
said
of
5 out of
18.
9. I get, well, if we're not doing spots in between, I give it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. Thank you. I give it a 7. I was not over like wowed, like blown away, but I quietly enjoyed it quite a bit, so I give it a 7.
Good
Right.
score.
What do you give it, Drew? Is it
I mean, mine's not very
Is it a 10?
surprising. Clearly, no, it's not a 10. I give
Oh,
it a
okay.
9, but it's like a strong 9. But I can't, in good conscience, because of some issues I have with this movie, give it a 10. But I nearly give it a 10 because I really liked it.
All right. I'd give it like a 6, maybe 6.5, just because it's clearly not for me, but it was at least interesting. Although, again, we said before at Dylan's house, it's not very fun to watch. So if I'm going into something, I'm
You know
not.
what? I'll give it a 6.
I loved it, and it was miserable to watch.
Yeah,
I feel like the more you like
But-
it, the less you enjoy watching it almost.
yeah, but the reason you like it is tied to
Yes, tied to the reason why I
connections.
hate watching it.
Yeah.
No,
So it
like
for
watching
me, someone who isn't connected in that way is like, well, it wasn't very enjoyable to watch, but again, I thought it presented some interesting ideas. So for that reason, it was 6.5, solid.
It's just, I think it's just good. I think it was made for like people like us though, Andrew, who don't personally have this connection, but through the vehicle of the movie are kind of like given like a world into what it can be like for trans
Yeah,
people, just like
that's
trying
fair.
to live with like
I feel like it does
Oh,
a
yeah.
better
trying to live with
job
that.
though at being more toward whether or not the intention is. I feel like it's not amazing at being towards people that aren't closer to it already.
I wouldn't be too sure about that. I mean, think about the metaphor that the method of him dying is suffocating.
That's fair. That
You ask anybody
there's
how they
so
feel
much
when they're
going
put
on
in such
there.
a tough position, they would say they feel suffocated.
Yeah, there's just a ridiculous amount of stuff in
Thought it was
that
a
one thing
poignant
alone.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said the word poignant. Deal with it. I know our dumbass viewers don't know what that word means, but it's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I wasn't even
our
gonna.
dumbass viewers probably thought we were hella pretentious this episode. So maybe next
Oh, we didn't even
time.
get to mention pretentiousness.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe
Yeah.
next episode we go more in depth on what being pretentious even is, and that in itself is pretentious. Ooh, oh,
I should
we're building
prepare by
layers.
watching a bunch of really pretentious movies for next week.
You should watch the Evangelion movies because
And not
I
Evangelion.
I was gonna say because you are definitely not watching the whole show between the next time we record, and
Who knows? Yeah, I'm not.
yeah, I know you're not.
Hey, the Evangelion movies are good, but we can talk about that
Yeah.
on another
I
day.
forgot you're actually an Evangelion fan.
I'm not
Point at him and
Evangelion.
laugh.
I'm not like a fan, but I really think that it's like Evangelion is good at the very least.
I don't know enough about it to
I
dislike
don't think
it.
it's like I don't think Evangelion is like it's not my favorite thing in the world. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but I like it. So, but we can discuss.
Yeah, you can
it
like
later.
bad things. That's fine. Anyways, sign us off, Dylan.
All right. So yeah, everybody, our viewers, thank you very much for listening to episode 2 of season 2 of Mount Syndicast. I've been Dylan with Andrew, Gwen, and Nick. Thank you for listening to our discussion about I Saw the TV Glow, and we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you. Bye.
Peace.